The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, and welcome to episode 28 of Quanzu's ABM POV webcast series. Today we're going to tackle how to plan and budget for global ABM programs. I'm Kelly Waffle, and as always, I'm joined by Money Iyer. Money, happy Friday. How's your day going?
Well, it's an interesting day, Kelly. As you know, we're doing this ABM POV video cast, and from a very different location than my usual location. I'm at a coffee place, so let's see. Hopefully, it'll go well for us.
Well, you're sounding good so far, so hopefully that'll just continue throughout our discussion today.
Okay.
So, jumping into the first question that I have for you, Money, there are a number of key considerations that people should look at to drive ABM plans and budgets at large global B2B companies. Can you take a few minutes and address a couple of them?
Yeah, let me do that. So I'm gonna switch gears and go to our regular whiteboard here, Kelly, and try to sketch it out for us. So here's how I think about it. I think top level, you've got kind of the three key constituencies within the large enterprise who are who need to be supported, who've got different objectives. So I'm going to first sketch up those three key constituencies who have slightly different goals and needs. So first is you have your brand and corporate marketing folks. They have certain specific goals. You've got your demand gen teams. So let's call it demand gen. And then you've got your sales organization, sales teams who have specific goals they want to see accomplished, right, in terms of ABM and ABM style programs. For the brand team, here's how I think about it, is they have specific goals around increasing brand awareness, making sure that the brand is under consideration at companies that they want to penetrate, that the brand wants to become more aware at, and they want to see increase in inbound inquiries. So that becomes goal number one. Now, next up, I would say on the demand gen side, certainly, I've seen slightly different goals. So here it ends up being all around, driving for more engagement. So you have more engaged accounts, and then they want to measure that engagement. They want to present engaged accounts and buyers over to their inside sales teams, SDRs, BDRs, and so forth. Right? So the engagement becomes a critical goal here. So I guess next up from here would be the sales team. So for the sales team, the way I then think about it, there's really two things. One is productivity of the sales organization in terms of, are they prioritizing the right accounts for outreach? So now another key component is, if brand awareness is really about bringing in more inbound inquiries, more of a top of funnel tactic. Let's say demand gen is more engaged accounts, or SDRs maybe more of a mid funnel tactic. You've got sales. Oftentimes we see this where they're really trying to accelerate late stage pipeline. So that's why, besides account prioritization, which is always the case that they want to do, the other thing I would write up here is accelerate late stage pipeline, because it again would be a different goal, different tactics, different kind of messages to put out, different content, different offers. So these are key drivers. The other dimension for me is, I'm going to sketch it out this way, which is, we've seen in large organizations, often they have budgets for sales and go-to-market efforts that are organized around global sales regions or geos. So there's a geo dimension that comes in. So I'm going to put it out this way, and then I'm going to label these. So you might have a North America or NAM region that has its own budgets and its own goals, its own plans. You've got UK and EU, often, again, the regional teams that we've seen that have their own goals and plans. Moving on into APAC, you've got LATAM, you've got ANZ. So you'll see why all this is important, because you've got to think about strategies, plans, tactics that work and work well and scale and are achievable globally. So these are key dimensions. And then another thing I would sketch out is one of the key things you want to do is figure out, of course, the accounts. So all of this finally boils down to specific accounts that you're going to go after. But within the account, there's another dimension to this planning, which is the buying group or buying team. Sales Decisions calls it demand units. So there is also trying to get a good sense of who are the people within these companies that you want to go after. What other tactics and strategies have you been pursuing? How are they working, be it emails, be it phone calls? And then you can try to make decisions around, you know what, there's some things that are not working well using other channels, other tactics. So if these are the VPs you want to go after, if these are the directors you want to go after, within specific buying groups, and if these are your managers you want to go after in specific buying groups, then what you're going to see is you again have to piece out certain titles and say, these personas, these titles, I'm specifically going to focus on more of an ABM, say in this case maybe an ABM advertising approach or ABM based outreach, while I may have other channels, other tactics that are working fine in terms of maybe I'm sending emails, marketing emails, I'm sending maybe doing some SDR phone calls, phone outreach, and they are working okay for some of these other titles. So again, the goals of the specific departments, organizations like brand, demand, and sales, global regions, and then the goals around specific buying groups and buying teams, Kelly, are all key drivers when it comes to figuring out your plans, figuring out your budgets at large global companies. Kelly?
Yeah, I would just add a recap to what you were saying there, Money, is that I've seen myself over the last couple of years that ABM advertising, display advertising has come a long way. So, a few years ago, I would say most people were looking at display advertising primarily, as a branding tool. But because of the sophistication and access to data nowadays, to your point earlier, you can really use ABM advertising for middle of the funnel activities to get more engagement. And then also, especially now, if you're trying to help accelerate what's already in the pipeline and close it in Q4, the kind of targeting that you can do and the ability to reach hard to reach buyers that you can't through your other traditional channels may make ABM advertising a more attractive play from that perspective. So, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And then, like you're saying, you can get a lot deeper into prioritization around region and things like that. So, playing off of that, Money, so let's say people have put the time into planning their priorities and their geographies and who they want to target. Obviously, budgeting is a big issue here. What specific guidelines would you kind of propose that people follow if they're trying to target accounts across global markets?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So again, I think you're absolutely right. Many people are not clear on how do you budget, how do you translate these into specific dollars, and how many ads are going to be delivered to who, and what kind of reach am I going to get, what kind of coverage am I going to get. So let's figure that out here next. So what I'm going to do next is just quickly look at our modeler here, a screen here, and just kind of clear out the screen and start sketching kind of the response to the next question. So first step is I would say let's think of a top-level budget. So it usually we find that customers, companies have a certain budget, at least as they get started in mind, right, for any program. So it could be 30,000, it could be 50,000, 100,000. So some kind of quarterly budget that they decide they want to allocate to these type of ABM style ads, which are highly targeted ads into specific accounts. Now, one of the first things is, they've got to do is they're going to have to decide. Now, they will have a really large master account list. So now these may be literally in the thousands. Now, they would then have to piece out certain, so account selection becomes important. So first is deciding, as we discussed earlier, specific geos, specific strategy, meaning is it top of funnel, mid funnel, late funnel strategy. Based on that, piecing out certain accounts and account lists. And they're going to have to decide on that. And of course, we help customers on that, as you know. Once you've got your account list, then you've got to run it through what we call a match process. We're trying to define certain sets of online cookies, device IDs, or IP ranges. So depending on is it cookie-based targeting, like this one might be maybe cookie-based targeting. This one maybe it's in an overseas market where cookies are not available, might be more of an IP-based targeting approach. So you got to pick your targeting approach, and then you got to run it through what's called a match process. You match these accounts, and then you end up with a set of accounts which I'll call matched accounts. Now, once you have the matched accounts again, what you don't want to do is dilute and kind of spread your peanut butter too thin, right, on a slice of bread. You got to make sure you're focused and concentrated, at least on a per account basis. So the way I like to think about it is I'd like to kind of take an account, and then I like to think about, is it a mid-market account or a large enterprise account that we're targeting? And then regardless of what you're targeting, I like to think about in terms of levels, meaning are you targeting people who are C-level targets in that company? Are you targeting people who are VP level? Are you targeting people who are director level? And are you targeting people who are manager level? Now, why is this important? There's some interesting numbers we've been able to figure out as we've run in more and more of these programs and campaigns. Because we've got lots of this data here, we've got some sense now about the number of cookies you might find for people at different levels. As an example, for a VP level in a large enterprise, so let's call it large enterprise. If you have a large enterprise target, VP level, you might see, as an example, let's say, 150 plus, right? And the same VP level in a mid-market company, you may have 70 plus targets. Now, remember, again, this doesn't mean there's 150 VPs in that organization. On the average, you'll see anywhere from like 3 to 4 or, maybe 3 to 5 different online cookies for the same individual because they're using multiple devices. And so, again, but you get a sense. And then the next key thing becomes how many ads do you serve to each of these targets on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis. So we've got some best practices developed here. We typically do about 1 ad per day on the average, about 90 ads a quarter. And then, of course, we have some best practices around how many different content offers, creatives you deliver to these folks. So we tend to shoot for 3+ creative that we serve out any one of these targets. We also have a best practice around refreshing these creative. So all this said, this drives your budget in terms of accounts, matching cookies, number of accounts, how many ads. And then what happens next, Kelly, is you've got to understand that pricing varies by vendor, right? So you've got different models, but here there are 4 key cost components. You're going to pay for the tech. You're going to pay for the media, which is like buying a placement. You're going to pay for the third-party data that's used for targeting, and then you're going to pay for services. So the tech is going to have costs. Some vendors will offer it to you on a shorter term than 12 months. Some will insist on 12 months. You're going to have media costs. You're going to have data costs. You're going to have, what I call customer success services or some kind of services costs. And of course, you can have an agency involved. You have cost of creative, cost of landing page, etc. So that said, you can then take all these costs, look at your budget, look at how many ads you're going to get, and you can come up with what I call a fully loaded CPM. So take this total cost, divide by the total number of ads you're going to get, and then that equals your fully loaded CPM. So the right thing we recommend that you do is always compare fully loaded costs across vendors and see who can give you a very kind of a competitive, fully loaded CPM, but at the same time, they have all the core capabilities around targeting, penetration, better targeting, better reporting, and reporting becomes a very, very important key component. Kelly?
Yeah, so this is great. So as a marketer, this would help me kind of visualize this more. If I were looking to do like a pilot, just to dip my toe in the water and get a better sense of all this, what could I expect as far as like the number of ads that are served and how many accounts should I target and things like that?
Yeah, so we typically recommend a starter budget, as you know, of around $35,000. And for that, we give some parameters where, again, depending on the mix of accounts, look to get to anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5 million ads served out over 90 days. In terms of accounts, we say anywhere from 150 to 400, 300 plus accounts. And that, again, would be depending on the titles. Because as we just saw in the pyramid approach, depending on, are you targeting the C-level, are you targeting VPs, are you targeting, who are you targeting? So that can really drive how many different accounts we can reach, engage, and touch. And then we talk about engagement. We talk about the fact for an initial campaign, you can expect 25 to 50% of accounts engage. We talk about how many unique buyers from an account you can get to, 1 to 5 unique buyers per account. So you can say on the average of 3. Buyers are, of course, actual key targets that are either clicking on ads, or they are visiting your website, and we track all of that, and we report back. We tell them what content, offers, product, solution they're engaging on. And then, of course, location. Where are they coming from? Which company are they at? So we provide some very, as you know, important detail for SDRs, and we try to make it super actionable for the SDRs and BDRs. And then before we close, Kelly, we probably should talk about, the fact that this stuff right here, there are really 2 classes of vendors that are out there that we know. One is your so-called all-in-one vendors who will require that customers buy the whole enchilada, right? They buy all the tech, buy all the media through them, buy all the third-party data through them, and provide services. And we've been, of course, we've been offering a very different approach. We call it adaptive ABM, where you only have to buy the actual pieces of the tech that you really need. You have different ways of spending on the media dollars and data dollars. It can either be, direct through us at Quanzu. It can be, by the customer. Maybe they have a direct relationship. It's by the customer's agencies. So we're offering net, and that's true for these. And the bottom line is, it's more flexibility, it's more transparency, and much greater visibility for customers while they get access to more data sources. If I were to jot it down, these are some of the key attributes. Kelly?
Yeah, so again, what I really like about these conversations, Money, is that we like to make them actionable. So hopefully people can leave with 1 or 2 tips. They can get a little bit more insight into what they're doing. And having said that, I just want to throw out to people that if you go to our website, we do offer a free 1-hour ABM consultation. So if you go to our website, click on the button, fill out the form, we'd be happy to spend some more time with you and walk you through your current situation and what you want to achieve and so forth, and really allow people to leverage what we've been able to do with hundreds of our own campaigns. But beyond that, as we look at our next topic, Money, speaking of being actionable, finding year-end deals with surge accounts and intent topics. So as I talked about earlier, the sophistication and the quality of the data that's now available to me is really exciting from a marketing perspective. And you can now use a lot of this data to affect the bottom of the funnel and help move some of those opportunities to close in Q4. So that's what you and I will be talking about in our next discussion. So I've got to believe that's going to be chock full of a lot of tips as well. So anything to add there, Money?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. So I think it should be an exciting next topic. Hopefully people found this one useful around planning and budgeting. Very timely, we hope, in terms of Q4. And looking forward to it, Kelly.
Great. So have a great weekend, Money. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you later today and certainly on Monday.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.